right, test one, test two, test one, test one. All right, now we're getting started. Getting set, getting set. Greetings, little sis. What a go on? That's a real man. A few minutes late, but we're getting set. We're getting set. It's not an easy road indeed, especially if you Calgary and on the road. Right. Greetings, greetings. Hey, happy Friday. What's up, Styles? Yes, Glenn. Winter is here in October. Welcome to Calgary. All right.
Some changes. All right. Greetings, greetings, greetings for those who are joining. Welcome to Wataguan. My name is Donovan Simon. I'm the president for the Jamaican Canadian Association here in Alberta, Calgary in particular, where it's snowing in October. And for those of us who are from the tropics, it's always an interesting transition. But welcome to the program. And today we're going to talk about community leadership. What does it take? We have some interesting guests online ready to share. But of course, we have to go through some of the things that are key to Wataguan, right? One of them is the Patwa word of the day or the Patwa phrase of the day. And today we're going to use one that might be applicable to the whole issue of leadership. You understand Jamaican Patwa, there's a term we call bulboka, right? And if you were to use it in a sentence, you would say somebody, they're always a jump up and go on like bulboka. For those who understand Jamaican Patwa, put what this means in the comments so that those who don't understand can get a sense of, our beautiful language Patwa, and especially the term bulboka, right? Bulboka. And we have another term we always put dopey conqueror against it as well. All right. What's coming up? Events, we always have to share what's happening. Our annual general meeting is going to happen on the 31st of October. So next week, Saturday at the Winston Heights Community Center. It's going to start at 7 p.m. We're also going to have a virtual access to the meeting. For those who live in Calgary, the Winston Heights Community Center is at 520 27th Avenue Northeast, just off Edmonton Trail. And if you are on our mailing list, you will get the details for the Zoom meeting in the weekly newsletter. In order to participate in the voting for new members of the executive, you will need to be a member in good standing, which includes being paid up. The meeting is open to everybody. So if you are on our mailing list or you want to be on our mailing list to participate in our annual general meeting, jump on our website or even on our social media, and of course, send us a message. We're also getting close to launching our public fundraiser. Our building or operating location is moving forward with a lot of steam, but we're going to need some help to get across the finish line. So look out for it. We're going to be launching some fundraising initiatives virtually in the next little bit, and we look forward to your help. We need all the help we can get to ensure that this place is ready to launch, and all things being equal before the end of the year. So again, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll get your help, and of course that the weather cooperates in some cases, because for those who don't understand what 10 centimeters of snow look like, that will impact us in some way. But we're making good progress. We got past our framing inspection, got past our plumbing inspection, just about to get our electrical inspection done. And after that, put up some board and some paint and a few things, and we'll be good to go. I want to pause to say this is our 50th episode of Watagwan. When we started this little program in September last year, it was just a thing. We said we wanted to jump on social media and share with our community what is happening. And here we are, 50 episodes later, over 25,000 views later, and we keep plugging along. And Watagwan has become a staple for some people in Calgary, in Canada, in England, Jamaica, all over the world. And when season 2 starts in November, we actually want to broaden the reach of Watagwan, because we think it's offering some value to our community. So 50 episodes, hopefully we get to 500. We keep plugging along as we share the culture and we share information with our community. For those who join late, like I said, the Patois word of the day or the Patois phrase is bulboka. Some man go on like them a bulboka. If you understand what that means, share it in the comments so that people can benefit from learning the language. All right. We're going to get into the discussion because I really want to get this one going. So let me bring our guest in. Dr. Charles Odomi-Ankor, president of the Ghanaian Canadian Association of Calgary. You can unmute Dr. Charles. Jump in. How you doing, my friend?
Hi. How are you doing, Donovan?
All is good, sir. Moji Taiwo, community leader extraordinaire, Nigerian Canadian Association, Calgary, and all kinds of other accolades. But we'll get to that, Moji. Greetings. How are you?
I am good.
You're good. All right.
I'm good. I have to use 2 technologies to get through to you, but that's okay.
Well, some leaders are more special than others. Eh? That's all right. And of course, Mr. Aidan Wells from the Caribbean, the Grenada Calgary Cultural Association. Aidan, greetings. How are you, my friend?
Very well, Donovan. Very well.
All right. Thanks to all of you for joining me on this very wintry fall day.
It's a pleasure.
All right, we're going to jump into the discussion because all of you are community leaders for different times, different roles. But I want to start the discussion by, first of all, maybe setting the stage about why. So, Moji, as the lady on the panel, I'm going to start with you. Why get into community leadership?
I believe that you are born with it. You have a restless personality. You are not a kind of person that sits back and just watch things happen. As a community leader, you make things happen. You don't watch. So, a person have to have that personality, and I think it's embedded. It's born in the person. Yeah.
It's a natural thing. So
it's a natural thing.
Maybe I'll jump over to Charles then, because what do you think are some of the basic requirements? And I soon get to you about the U.S. presidential elections, because but
we can get into that. Yeah.
What do you think it takes, Charles?
Well, I mean, what you're talking about is some of the basic requirements. The first one is the willingness to serve. That I think no one can force you into it. You need to have the desire and the willingness to serve, and in the process, you become like the pathfinder for others who are lost, and you kind of direct them to have a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And from my background growing up, community was everything. From the village where I grew up, we were taught that when you see garbage on the ground, if you assume someone is going to pick it, no one ends up picking it. So that means you, as an individual, you have a basic responsibility to pick up your trash. And that's how I personally was raised. And I was taught that if you want change, be the change. You need to be the change. Not
be the change you seek.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, with that, some of it might be natural. I hear you, Moji. Some of it is just cultural, the way we're brought up. But of course, it comes with challenges. So Eden, I'm going to jump over to you, because with all of those natural tendency, this whole sense of community leadership comes with its own sense of challenge. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you have experienced, leading an ethnocultural organization?
Well, I think you have to understand that there are people that are willing, but may not have the time to help. So you must be going into the position knowing that it's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you may not necessarily get the help you need and seeking right away. It's a matter of time to kind of build a coalition and to build cooperation and get people that are like-minded to come in and get involved. Many will come and attend functions, so to speak, but there's so much more heavy lifting to be done behind the scenes that you really need to be able to, I guess, attract individuals that can assist and support.
All right, that's an interesting point, because when we talk about attracting and supporting, there's also the question of sustaining. And all of us know that nobody's lining up to take any of the jobs. Is that a reasonable thing to say?
Well,
no, go ahead, Moji.
Yeah, well, yes. At the beginning, nobody, at least in my community, in the Nigerian community, and we've been around for a long time. The Jamaican community have been around a long time too, but you've gone through ups and downs,
right,
which we did. But luckily, those days of coercing or looking or struggling to get people to take position, I want to brag and say that it's over with us. Actually, now we're at a stage where people are lining up and wanting to be a part of the organization, but it's taken a lot of work, a lot of commitment, a lot of dedication, a lot of drive from those people like myself, and I don't like saying that, like myself, who were there from the beginning and refused to go away. But when I say refuse to go away, we are not always in the forefront.
Right.
We're in the background.
Yeah.
We're in the background, constantly doing the PR work that's needed, constantly looking for committed, talented, service-oriented people that we can go and recruit. So they don't often just come. Sometimes you have to scout. Yes, that's the word. We scout. And the scouting is done by people who have been around a long time in collaboration, assistance for people who are new. So you get, they forward the names. We do our due diligence in checking them out. And somebody like me or people who have been around that's considered, respectable in the community, then go to talk to the person that I have been giving your name and I have done this homework on you. And we think you can do this. And we know that you've been admiring what we've been doing from afar.
Right.
Would you like to come in? And that's what we're doing now.
Well, that's a great story because Charles Eden, you can pipe in here as to your experience and the ease with finding what I'm going to call leaders that can replace and sustain.
Yeah, I will start by saying that what Moji said is quite true. When I took over the reins as a president 3 years ago, I took over from a very capable president at the time who had set the pace and who has refused to just disappear after serving. Let me put it that way. So, and who has made her time available. That when you reach out to her, I need this. How did you go about this? So, and apart from that, there are people who I call them the voice of reason, and they will never contest for a position, but they will give you advice. They will give you direction, where to point. They can sit back and observe and tell you, maybe next time when you try this way, it might work. These people are very analytical, very methodical. And if you want to succeed in a community leadership in a voluntary position like this where people are not paid, because we should remember that positions that are well paid is naturally competitive.
Right.
Yeah. But positions that you need to spend your time, your money, and everything, your resources,
your family time.
Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it in the first place. So when you are a leader, you need to be a good listener. And some of us are coming from one country that is like 50 countries within the country, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Culturally. So culturally, my country, Ghana, is so diverse that you cannot have a clear-cut solution that fits everyone. So you need to have a way to bring all these people together and then find a common ground to let things work. Then the Nigerian Association has done very well, and I applaud them. And they have been lucky because they have the numbers on their side. That's about running when you have the numbers on your side, it's not hard to find people. Because one of the things that I have realized is that you can even have leadership fatigue. If you be there for 10 years, like, hey, come on, you'll run off ideas. There is no motivation. You need fresh ideas, fresh hands to move the organization forward. But if you don't have the numbers and it's just the same people who are doing the heavy lifting all the time, it becomes hard. Even the best leaders with the best intentions give up.
You raise a good point.
And that's why some organizations, like a Ghanaian organization has been around before Nigerian organization.
Yeah.
Because I was here at that time. And Jamaican Association has always also been around before us. And what was critical was that leader fatigue. If you don't have a replacement, and the membership now rely heavily on you to continue over and over and over.
Yeah.
We actually made a concerted effort in the Nigerian Association that we don't want repeat leaders.
Mm-hmm.
we actually worked tirelessly on that point, that we don't want to repeat leaders in order not to fall into that trap.
Yes.
So
Yeah, hold on a second, Moji, because some people have that luxury. Because I'm thinking of Aiden at the Grenadian Association and the Grenadian population in Calgary. Aiden, you don't have that luxury.
We don't have that luxury. I think we're saying similar things, though, in the sense that as an association, as leaders in the community, we need to seek out other individuals that we identify or have been identified to us to be able to take on and come in different roles, right? Because often people may not necessarily believe that they have the skill sets required or the time or what have you. So it is a matter of going to them and talking with them and having conversation with them and bringing them in various activities or various events to get a feel and a taste. And then they can see. The other important thing is that they have to be comfortable knowing that essentially that you're not going to walk away. I was fortunate when I was brought into the association that I knew Ms. Moraine was around, and she had lots of years of experience. If I had any questions or any concerns, you have someone you can speak with. So it's not just come in, take over, and good luck to you. There has to be continuity, succession, so to
Correct.
speak.
Correct.
As we talk about succession, though, there's also the question, and I'm going to throw it out to you guys, about the legacy. And some of this legacy is good, and some of this legacy is not good, right? Of that in some cases dog these associations for years and become a source of as a detractor from those who might be interested. Is that a reality that the leaders have to face, and how do we deal with it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I will share the Ghana experience I've had. Before I became president, when you are outside, you see it differently until you are put in there. Then you realize that it's a different beast altogether. One thing that in the beginning I wanted to chip in is that some people come into leadership roles with an agenda.
Yes.
To just ruin. They
Yes.
didn't come there.
It looks like you're reading my notes.
Notes.
they have an agenda. Their agenda is recognition. Mm-hmm. But it's a community organization. It's not about you. Mm-hmm. It's about the community. It's about the future of the community. So when I personally came in, this is what I realized very quickly from the outside before I came in, was the ethnic organizations that we have in Ghana. We have the Shanti Association, we have the Brahaf Association, we have the Ewe Association, we have the Zongo Association, we have the Fanti Association, we have the Kapmai Association, and I think I'm forgetting one. We have about 7 of them. Mm-hmm. And these associations were formed by individuals who are culturally attached to where they are coming from. That's it. They identify with that association more than identifying themselves as Ghanaians. So the question I asked myself, how am I going to make this work?
So what did you do, Charles? How did you fix it?
What I did was to just develop an open door policy. Brought everyone together and said, how do we move ahead? How do we do things together? Because we used to have like the summertime where you have 3 or 5 different events happening, but each of the cultural organizations. I'm like, come on, guys, let's bring it together. Mm-hmm. So our first, when we dubbed it our Festival Stroke Picnic, which did happen at Rotary Challenger Park, was when we brought all the community, the ethnic associations together. And we had sheds for each association. So when you come there, you see each association having a tent. And guess what they did? They prepared food from their background, music from their background, cultural dressing from their background, and we were all under the same umbrella. The Ghana Association did the heavy lifting, paid for the space, paid for the song, and And guess what? We had over 1,000 people come out. The following year, we realized that even the venue was too small for us. So we moved to West Winds Park, which was a bigger venue. And guess what? It was the first time a lady walked to me and said, "Oh my God, I didn't know there were so many in the community." And you know what moved me? When I saw children of Guinean descent playing together for the first time. They didn't even know each other. And we live in the same city. So I realized that it is about having an open policy and not taking a stance. Because when I came in, I could have just said that I am from Latte. I am an Ekuapem. So I'm damn the Ashantis. I don't need any Ashanti to do anything with. And I'm going to run with that ethnocentric tribal sentiment. But I realized that no, I am not there for
yourself.
Myself,
but
for the community.
Yeah, but Charles, you have to get this message across, right?
What else I realized?
How do you get this message across to that wider community though, without ruffling feathers? Or do you accept that you have to ruffle the feathers?
I will take that, because aside from the exactly everything Charles just mentioned, we have in the Nigerian Association too. Actually, Nigerian Association was almost brought down about, I would say about 18 years ago. And I happened to be the president at the time. It was almost brought down by this ethnic, not so much open friction, it's sidelines. And the other ethnic associations were not formed then. There was only Nigerian Association, but they are working and sort of undermining everything Nigerian Association is doing and taking it into their little corners. So aside from the ethnicity, we also have religion. we also have religious diversity or differences or challenges.
That's like soca versus reggae.
Well, that's it. So your question is, how did we bring people together?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you have to recognize them. At first, we said, well, everybody came to Canada with one passport, and that was a Nigerian passport. We soon realized that was not going to work because that was more combative than inviting. So we went the other way and said, we want you to identify leaders amongst you, a spokesperson amongst you. They did. We invited them over for a meeting. From that on, every meeting we have, every monthly meeting we have, a representative from all of those organizations will be called upon to give us updates about what they're doing. And we develop a calendar, a yearly calendar, where each and every one of them on our website will throw in dates that they are doing things, but with the understanding that Nigerian Association is the ultimate umbrella association. And we always fix our dates for gala, which is our yearly. Charles, you've been to our gala.
Yeah, man, big thing. I mean, Genesis can't hold you guys anymore.
Have you been there too?
Yeah, I saw less than 1,200 people in attendance.
Yeah, Genesis can't hold you guys anymore. Right?
And then you have to come.
I used to come. I haven't been since Thorncliffe.
Okay, it's gotten bigger, and we missed this year, but by God's grace, we'll be here next year to celebrate. So what we did is we decided that the ethnic groups, we have their picnics every summer, but we invite each other to come. The Christmas party, it's Nigerian Association celebration for everyone. And then we have the gala. And in the summertime, we have life skills program and day camps. That's for everyone as well. Because, like Charles says, our community is getting bigger and bigger. We realize that we can have a picnic, have gala, have summer program and stampede, and have everything. So the Ethnic Association does picnic, but they come to the house, to Nigerian meeting, to announce and extend invitation to everyone to come.
So what you're saying, Moji, is that we have to promote inclusivity, and
Yes.
the leaders have to be open and have the appetite for that.
Correct.
Yes.
I want to bring Aiden in here because Aiden is part of the Caribbean Presidents Forum, has been focusing on youth. And Aiden, what's your opinion on building the leadership for the future? And I'm going to come to Charles and Moji on that. Are we seeing it? And what are some of the key things that we need to do?
Well, from what we're experiencing, part of the challenge is getting the youth and the younger people to be involved in the associations. Many associations that I see around town, a lot of the members, are 50, 60, 70 years old. So the younger people aren't as active as I'd like to see. I myself have been active with Grenada Association since I was quite young. My mother dragged me to the various meetings and functions. So, I think it takes an opportunity or takes the parents to actually introduce their children into the associations. That being said, the children also have to, and the youth also have to see that when they come to these functions, that there's something for them. It's not just talking about home. It's about talking about them today and providing them with opportunities and providing them with experiences that can help them in today's world, because they're living in Calgary or wherever they are in the world. They're living there. They have to experience life and be able to be successful and see a need or a benefit of being part of their wider associations.
That's critical, right?
Yes, it's interesting you mentioned that there has to be something there for the youth. Again, Nigerian Association taps into those ethnic community association and invite the kids in. And we also have to be conscientious and be cautious that when we are at our meeting, the languages we use.
Right.
You keep saying home. So we don't use home unless we have a program specific dealing with that issue. And at that time, we don't bring the kids in because their reality is totally different from our reality.
Right.
We are beginning to get there inch by inch, but it's been a 5-year program. And just now, Charles, you are at the last gala, you noticed that it was dedicated to those youth.
Yes.
They did a promotion, a project, and they put on a show, but it was them. Yeah. And then we also realized that it was a bit easier for us to get the girls to volunteer. So we had to use the girls to bring the boys around to volunteer. So we're inching there, but it's a long-term.
The girls.
Yeah,
it's all about the girls.
Right. But we really, really had to sit down with them. And in Black people's culture, we have this thing, especially those people 50 and above, that children are to be seen, not to be heard. We really had to change our orientation. We change our orientation where we're saying that it's okay for our kids to sit with us because we want to hear them and we want them to hear us, so that we have a mutual understanding of where we're coming from.
That's a solid point that I want to extend, and also conscious of the time, because are there unique challenges that Black organizations face that as leaders we need to acknowledge? And I'm going to go to Aiden first because he was starting. Is that something that as leaders we have to acknowledge and work on, Aiden?
one thing, what I was going to say is that from the youth perspective, and again, as leaders in our communities, it's important for them to see that we get along, that we respect each other, that we can work together. Those are things that they can latch onto, so to speak, and they can see opportunities and, again, a future and something very positive. So we need to be able to reflect the positive aspects of working together. And I think the Caribbean Associations, I can speak for them, we're at a point where it's almost a golden age where many of the leaders are seeing the benefits and have a desire to be collaborative, to work together, because we can do more by cooperating than we can as individual associations.
Yeah. Charles, are there some unique challenges that Black organizations face and as leaders that we need to acknowledge and work on?
I think there are two things that we need to recognize. We need to recognize the economic barrier and realize that there is a vast majority of us who are first-generation immigrants. And as a first-generation immigrant, you are an economic immigrant. You came here to make a living for your generations to do better. And sometimes in the process of that, we're working weekends, double jobs. We are not able to actively participate. But that should not be an excuse to deny our children the opportunity to learn where we come from. Because one thing we should never do, the mistake we should never do, is to let our children fall into the hands of identity crisis. I keep saying this. Identity is very important. Most children are in trouble now because they don't know where they belong. Although they are born in Canada, they don't feel that they fit into the system, and they don't know anything about where we come from. The only thing they know about where we come from is what they see at home, the food for them to eat, the aunties and the uncles they talk to, and that is it. So we need to understand that we have a responsibility to teach our children about our culture. And also, this is very important, we have a responsibility to learn from them, because they are going to school here. They are learning the culture here. We came here old to work. So we think we know, but honestly, we do not even understand where we live. The children understand it better. So it is, to me, it's an opportunity to kind of interact. The Ghana Association has a documentary, and the title is 40 Years of Development, with identifying our unique identity for our children and children's children. They do have a different identity. They relate as Nigerians and they relate as Canadians. That is a beautiful identity. And we need to nurture and promote that identity. That is very important. And that is what Moji said, that when these kids come to our events and all you do is speak Igbo or P, and when they try to speak even, we'll make fun of them. They are gone. They're not going to come back. We need to open our doors to them and bring them in and encourage them. Encourage them to embrace who they are. It's very important.
Moji, you were going to say?
And if I may add to that, you asked what are some of our challenges. We're rigid. We're rigid. We don't
old and rigid.
Old and rigid. We don't want to, and Charles mentioned it, we have to be open to learning from them. And believe it or not, in some instances, there are more subject matter experts amongst them than us.
Yeah.
Our experiences are different from theirs. And I'm usually the first to admit, and I teach life skills classes to teenagers up to university ages in summertime for NCAC. And I teach classes to parents in order to better understand the children, so that there is no conflict. There is harmony. Charles mentioned it. where you bring them together and we come together, and Ghanaian heritage, Canadian life, it's actually more beautiful.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be a conflict. It's more beautiful. So I emphasize the beauty in it for the kids. And I also explain to the kids the expectation of the parents.
Mhm.
There's a reason why we have high expectations.
Yes.
And explaining it to them, because as parents, we don't sit down and explain to the kids. We just say, I want you to do that, and I'm your mom, and you should do it. But the kids want to know why.
Yeah, well, why is because I'm your mom.
So, and that doesn't work. So we take opportunity to explain, and that's the only way to bring our kids along,
Yeah.
to have them.
I want to just chip in the second point. That is, we don't trust the kids to do greater things,
Mhm.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
All right, so here's my question that I'm going to wrap up with because I'm looking at the clock. Charles, has there been a transition in the leadership and the leadership perspectives in our community, right, in recent times
Yes.
that maybe is not fully understood and appreciated out there?
When you talk about transition, that is an interesting question. How do you do it? And you know, in the beginning, you said something. What we do, Aiden stressed that. What we do, these kids watch. It helps them to understand what we're doing. What we do as well, people outside also watch. And it will encourage them either to come in or go away.
Wow.
One thing that I need to stay very clear is always study those who come into the association with personal agendas. Let them go. Don't be apologetic about it.
I can save you pain.
Nurture and motivate the genuine ones.
Mhm.
And trust me, they will build a fantastic association.
Yes. Yes.
Ian, what do you think? Do you think there has been transition? And do you think, I mean, I'm looking at this conversation and I've been around here a few years and I can't recall conversations with like these. So what's your take?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, the fact that we have individuals that are willing to come together and work together and to cooperate and to build something positive, it's very, very heartwarming for me. It's not just about putting together a function. It's about what can we do to give back to the community and to help others in our community become better, to help our youth become stronger. Those are very powerful things, in my opinion.
Moji, you get the last word.
I would like to go back to your first question, is that what makes a leader? A leader have to have conviction. You have to have commitment. You have to be consistent. You have to have a purpose, and you surround yourself with the people who can help you achieve your purpose. And your purpose is not for you. It's not self-serving. You are a service. You are serving other people. You have to have tenacity. You have to have integrity. You definitely have to have a thick skin, because there are people that will get under your skin, especially when you say no to their own personal agenda. But what you say inside must be what you say outside. And soon enough, they come to respect you as a pillar in the community, and they let you be. They let you, and most of them, they come back because you've asserted yourself, and they know that you're not doing what you're doing because it's for you. It's for the good of the people. And you have to be able to deliver and don't go away, especially when you get younger, motivated people. We also do coaching, a lot of training for our leaders, upcoming leaders. In Nigerian community, you don't just come and become a president. We do a lot of in-service and training and bring people in, along the way. So we do a lot of that. But the bottom line is that there are lots of resources out there for people. You just have to know who your people are.
All right. We could do this forever, but we have to stop because that's how time goes. This has been an awesome discussion, and I'm glad we stopped on that word of service, right? Moji, Charles, Aiden, thank you guys for joining Watagwan. It was a pleasure.
Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. All right.
Edin, nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you. Absolutely. Take
Yeah.
care.
Nice
Yeah.
to meet
Take
you.
care. My
Wonderful.
brother.
Stay warm.
Yes. Yes.
And of course, as we close out Watagwan, next week we're going to have a very interesting discussion on our association. We're going to take an inside look on the Jamaican Canadian Association. We're going to take a deep look. We're going to have myself on the other side of the camera or on the other side of the mic as I'm going to be answering questions. So I'm encouraging everybody. If you have questions about the association, or questions about the leadership, or questions about where we're going, send those in. We're going to have other voices in the conversation as well. Those who might have critical views, because we're going to take a deeper look at us, because that's part of what we do on Watagwan. For those who joined late and didn't get the patois word of the day is bulboka. If you understand what bulboka means, put it in the comments. Again, October 31st is our annual general meeting. We're inviting you to come to the session at the Winsonites Community Center. It starts at 7 o'clock. We're also going to have virtual access to that meeting. If you are on our mailing list, you will get the Zoom invite. It will not be streamed live on Facebook. It will be in Zoom. And of course, after that, November 6th, we're going to have the new season of Watagwan. And I tell you, we're lining up 3 wonderful ladies in our community to bring a woman's view to Watagwan on November 6th. So next week, we're going to take an inside look on the JCAA. And the week after, we're going to launch the new season of Watagwan, taking a woman's view. As always, if you're in Calgary, I know it's snowing outside and all the rest of it. Stay safe on the roads. Wherever else you are, remember, COVID is still around. So practice social distancing and safe practices and take care of yourself. Until next week, be good. Donovan saying, have a good night. Take care.